Ladies and gentlemen, please don't mess this up for me. Please. It is the season. Drink your favorite Christmas song and be merry. Is that good? There, I'm moving slightly backwards this direction so that you can, dang it, I covered it with my microphone. This is a true example of how life is not fair, and sometimes in the darkest cave you have to look for a butterfly. Why do I have so many Hot Wheels? Yeah, I'll take it. Okay, how many minutes? 3 minutes? This week was a busier week than was anticipated, and as a result, I didn't exactly have an idea for today's video, but I still wanted to make a video because I like talking about writing. And then an idea came to me, an idea that I don't even know why it came to me, but I was thinking about writing, and I thought about Hurricane Sandy from 2012. And why did I think about this? Because when I was an 11 homeschooler, I did something only an 11-year-old homeschooler would do, and that was write a newspaper article about the hurricane of that year. I actually have the original newspaper. What's funny is, like, this is still the peak of, like, what I've accomplished as a writer. I write stuff that I believe is objectively better now, but I haven't actually finished any of it, so it's not gotten published. Moral of the story, maybe finish what you do, and something will happen. I just now realize that I don't know which page this article is. I don't want to read the newspaper. That's not the point. That's not what I want. Did you know that three men were arrested in recent city robberies? That's not good. The one we are talking about, the article, it's this one here on the paper. Do you see it? Do you see that article? It says, I was hoping Sandy or Hurricane Sandy would bring adventure, which is actually kind of a bold title because I'm sure many other people were hoping that their families wouldn't get mauled by a hurricane, so that seems like a bigger concern. That is an article I wrote when I was 11. And, you know, seeing as that wasn't written originally to be an article. When I was younger, I just wrote about everything and anything, both like my real life and then mostly made up stuff, but this was one of the real things I wrote about, and I thought it would be interesting as a writer to do a video focusing on a past thing I did as a writer, something I did when I was a younger writer. It's embarrassing because today I'm not even going to be reading you the article. I am going to be reading you the uncut version. Because originally, like I said, this wasn't intended to be an article. This was just me essentially writing random nonsense. And then I guess my mom, I showed her my documentation, if you can call it that, of the hurricane. And then she showed a family friend, and they were like, you should send this to the newspaper. And the newspaper responded. Surprisingly enough, they got back to me, and they said that I talked for too long and I needed to cut it down. So this, today, unfortunately, when they cut down my article, they made the mistake of, like, telling me to cut the poem halfway through this story. See, in this original version, I'm telling a story, and then midway, with, no warning, I tell a poem. And that's something that they lost in telling me to cut my words. So today I'm giving you the real memory behind what is to date still the only thing I've actually published, which is enough to cause some sorrow when I lie awake at night. Let this be an inspiration to you as a writer, that you are probably writing something better than this. And if this got published, you can get published too. Let that be what you take away from this. Hurricane Sandy by Liz Forrester. Don't. That's my name. Don't be weird with that information. Chapter 1. Waiting. Monday, October 29th, 2012. I was in bed. No sound but the wind and my little brothers in their room talking. Don and Nathan are always talking on no school mornings. You might be wondering, why is there no school on a Monday? Well, insert school name that I won't be sharing in this video because it gives too much information on where I live, was closed because of a hurricane. We are homeschooled, but went to insert school name that I won't be sharing. So, my mom, it says mommy, but I cannot bring myself to read that. You know what's so funny? When I was 17, I decided to start calling my mom mother as a joke because it was way too formal. And it's been 6 years and I'm locked into that. I can't even break it because that's just what I call her now. She is mother. And people around me get confused because they're like, why are you so formal with your mom? And I'm like, I'm not. It was a joke. It was a joke. I called my dad father one time and I immediately stopped myself because I've learned that it is a slippery slope from being a joke and then becoming someone's like permanent long-term name that you are now like held captive at calling them. My mom let us have the day off. Let me explain this hurricane. The news says it will be windy and maybe rainy this morning, but the real hurricane will hit us at noon. It also says we could lose power for days and maybe a week! Exclamation point. Why do I sound excited about that? I actually developed a severe fear of power outages because I had a room between the room that I have now. I've had 3 rooms in my lifetime. My middle room that I had between this room and the first room, somehow along the lines, I'm not entirely sure like what got me to this point, but I convinced myself that it was haunted, which made power outages worse for me. This story is true, but I like it that way. I think this will be an adventure! Exclamation point. Right now, I am thinking of it as I'm writing. What? Waiting for the hurricane. You know what's funny? I don't have adventure. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not an adventurous person. There's a perfect memory I have that depicts this to the exact degree when 3 years ago, it was sometime then, my family went to a lake house for a few days for a vacation, and I was pacing on the dock of the lake house, and I guess I wasn't doing enough, so my sister sailed up to me on a kayak and told me I needed to have more zest for life, and then she just sailed away. I do have zest. I have zest. It's not outer. I have inner zest. I do like life, but I don't, I like to write about adventures, and I like to daydream about adventures. I can't even, I'm a bit of a hypocrite for saying I don't like adventure, because that's not necessarily true. I write about characters who go through adventures that, quite frankly, are a little bit terrifying at times, but, like, me personally, on a physical level, God forbid, I have to walk out onto my own porch and stand under the light of the sun for more than 50 seconds. Chapter 2. Wind and Rain. Monday at noon, : still waiting for something exciting to happen! Exclamation point. Now, instead of starting at noon, the hurricane starts after 6 p.m. at night! All caps. 6 p.m. is barely night. News said over 5,000 people had lost power. Now all you can hear is wind and rain. Oh my word. Okay. So the poem, I did not realize this. I gave literally no transition. The poem just starts. For some reason, because chapter 1 is waiting, right? Chapter 2 is wind and rain. I expected a little heading that's like, and now here's a poem that doesn't serve any purpose here, but I'm putting it here anyway. No, there is no title. There is no warning. There's just a poem here. Wind blows hard, roaring sounds in my ear. I was inside. Some tough wind is what I hear. It's redundant. Pouring down comes the rain, so be prepared for a hurricane. See what gets... It's not even done. What gets to me... You know what? I'm gonna continue. Roar... roar, roar, splish, splash, wind and rain. What's coming is a hurricane. This is the... I can't... I remember writing this line, and you know what? I need to defend myself for a second, because as I wrote this line, I knew that it wasn't like an amazing line, but I could not think of anything else that rhymed with Sandy, and I just need you to know that before I read it. Even though literally in this moment, I can think of multiple rhymes. Handy, dandy, 2 rhymes. That's so many. Okay, roar, roar, splish and splash, wind and rain, what's coming is a hurricane. This is the taste of adventure candy. Adventure candy. The adventure is in all caps. I don't know if I thought the all caps would make this seem like a more legit line. I don't know if that's what made me feel better. This is the taste of adventure candy. Again, I was inside. I was in my basement. Nothing was happening. Look, here it comes. It's Hurricane Sandy. I deserve jail time. Like the poem? I hope you did. I was writing this to myself. This is what I did all the time. I just wrote random stories. Literally, only I would read them, and I would still try to interact with, like, the reader as if, like, they could answer the... I don't know. 2012 will always be remembered for Hurricane Sandy, ... I will remember it better if the power would just go out. Again, this was back before I believed that I was haunted. What's funny is 2012 was definitely not remembered for Hurricane Sandy. In fact, I think if I didn't write this, I honestly would not have remembered this happened. I don't know what 2012 is remembered for, but that's just not what would come to mind. My mom says I should be happy that the power is on. Yeah, your mom is right. But I want adventure! Can I write adventure in lowercase? Again, need I remind you, I don't want adventure. I don't really do much. It will also ruin my story if the power doesn't goes out. If the power doesn't goes out. If the power doesn't... You know what, though? That makes sense. That makes sense as the motive. Because that would be something I would do. Stories are my favorite thing. I love writing stories. Mainly fiction. But, like... I feel like if I were... Like, if there was potential tragedy in my path, my mind, especially as a child, would be like, oh, well, that could be a good story. So, you know what, the power going out checks out a bit, because I can understand that, unfortunately, that is probably where my logic was. I don't think if I wasn't writing, I think if I didn't care about writing, I probably would not have wanted the power to go out, because it literally is just an inconvenience. What gets to me? You know, I was going to say this earlier when I was reading the poem. What gets to me more than anything about this is that a news person read the poem and internally was like, no, get rid of that. Chapter 3, Night of Hurricane Sandy. Monday night between 9 and 10, now. Hurricane Sandy was supposed to hit us at midnight, caps. That is when we are sleeping. So we, or my dad, had to make a decision, ... And that took, like, forever, caps. My dad decided we would sleep in the basement, ... And I'm not happy about that. It's funny because I ended up living in the basement about 5 years after that, and that's when I believed that I was haunted. My dad and mom are sleeping on 2 mattresses stacked on top of each other. Beside them are the boys sleeping on the couch. Rachel and I were sleeping in sleeping bags. Well, we seemed prepared for the night of Hurricane Sandy. You know, I'm gonna have to rate this story not very high, because not much has happened. I really did not have much to report. I lay down in bed. Like an hour later, I was at a water park. What? I'm gonna guess this was a dream with huge water slides! Exclamation point. Yeah, this is definitely a dream. My siblings and I won a prize! Exclamation point. Later, I don't know why I keep telling you what the punctuation is. I need to stop doing that. Later at the water park, people were screaming, "It's Hurricane Sandy! Save yourselves!" Within the next moment, I was just laying in bed. But I wasn't sleeping anymore. Man, the power is still on. Chapter 4? No school. ... Again. Tuesday, October 30th, 2012. So this really was almost exactly 12 years ago. The fact that I was this person 12 years ago does worry me a little bit. I was unhappy about not being able to go back to sleep last night. Get used to that. Well, at least school was canceled again. A Monday and Tuesday without school. Just thinking of playing all day is awesome. AWSOME. Although the power didn't go out like I hoped it would, if there is no school, it doesn't matter. I think we are actually very lucky to have power. Wow, that is like the first sensible thing you've said this whole time. I just read ahead a few lines, and I'm gonna have to change character a bit for this. I am 11, and my name is Liz. Remember that whenever you meet with a hurricane. And there are still many adventures coming up. And maybe then the power will go out. This adventure may not be over yet, but don't talk about mine. Go have your own. The end. I understand why that got cut. Okay, what are my takeaways? Oh, there are so many. There are so many. The first one, I completely get why they told me to cut it. In fact, here's some writing critiques. We're gonna treat this seriously for a second, because there's something to take away from this. First of all, nothing happened. The entire time, nothing happened. Not a single, it was just, I'm waiting for something to happen. Chapter 2. I'm waiting for something to happen. Chapter 3. I'm waiting. So the fact that I wrote this at all, I should say I'm surprised, but the thing is I'm not. Again, I wrote like all the time. When I was a child, I wrote about anything, everything. It was always just writing, which is still true now. But I think now I really only write fiction. Other than journaling. What's funny is when I journal, to kind of keep a record of stuff, and I feel like I can write about a normal day much more interestingly than I wrote about that hurricane. And maybe that's the critique. There had to be something. There had to be something, a more interesting method. Another thing is so many thoughts were thrown in there that I understand completely why they told me to cut that down. I think it was 200 words. They're like, you need to cut this down 200 words. And it makes sense, because like, there's so many things that just come out of nowhere. The poem, literally no warning. There should be like Hurricane Sandy article, warning, poem. Adventure candy is a line in and of itself that warrants legal punishment. And then it's not even just a poem, it's the dream. There was water slides. How did the water slides contribute, Liz? What did they do? What did the water slides do? I'm not surprised that they cut it down. I'm surprised that they accepted it at all. I'm surprised they messaged us back and were like, you know what? We'll take this. We'll take some element of this. Like, honestly, I think it was because I was 11. I think they were like, oh, an 11-year-old wrote this. How sweet. And you know what? To be fair, it makes sense. Like, little kids, when they do stuff, what's funny is, I feel like when all of my siblings were 11, they were more, maybe not mature, but more like, I feel like you meet some 11-year-olds and they are just so far past where I was when I was 11. For some reason, growing up, I always kind of acted like years behind my like peers, which made it hard to make friends, because it was like, even when I was at school, I just wasn't where everyone else was. And I can see that in that article, because it's like, I'm glad I did it. When I look at it now, it makes me a little bit happy. It's cheesy, especially the part at the end, but it's also like, it captures the time of where I was in my writing, and it contrasts with where I am today. And you can look back at it and you die inside. I die inside reading it. But the fact that is where I was then, and this is, I am where I am now, it is nice. It's nice. You can see your progress, and you can know, like, I've been working at this for a while, and I'm happy I have. My main problem now is actually just finishing stuff. And you know what? Maybe that's my final note. Honestly, if you finish something, even if it's kind of a rambly little few pages, who knows? The fact that it's finished, that means more than you think it does. Thank you for watching this video. I'm sure it is so long. Editing this, I don't even want to think about editing. I'm no.